What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Datadash, and today is January 27th of 2021. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, I want to spend some time to dive into three critical things, diving into Bitcoin, talking about whether or not we may be at a mid-cycle high here, or if we're just getting started to move forward in price. Outside of that as well, diving into the altcoin space, taking a look at some of our top picks and the broader trend. And last but not least, talking about the craziness of what's going on with the GameStop stock that has been absolutely tearing up any kind of logical sense in the market for most people. Well, we're going to break down what's going on there and much more throughout the video right after our quick sponsor. Our sponsor for today's episode is Shrimpy. Shrimpy is the social trading platform for cryptocurrency. Traders can sign up for Shrimpy and start making money by becoming a leader that other investors can follow. Once you've selected to lead a group of investors, input the amount you would like to charge based on assets under management or performance. Each month, Shrimpy will automatically charge your followers so you can get paid. When an investor follows your portfolio, they will copy the same trades you make on the exchange or through the Shrimpy application. Sign up for Shrimpy today. Alrighty, everyone, so let's go ahead and dive straight into it here. Taking a quick look across the board for the market, over the last 24 hours here, we can see that the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are in a no-trend scenario, most of which, though, are starting to point down towards negative territory here, as Bitcoin and Ethereum have started to fade off some of their recent all-time highs. And this has been something that, again, has been going on the broader 7-day trend here for most plays. We can see most cryptocurrencies starting to fare worse off here. And again, some plays still holding strong here in the broader altcoin space. These have been mainly your DeFi plays and stuff, for example, like Alpha Homora, Uniswap, different plays like 0x and Aave and Compound. These have been the ones that have been winning over the last 24 hours and the last 7 days. And we'll dive more into it as we talk about altcoins here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and talk here about Bitcoin, guys, because I think that a lot of people, when they're analyzing Bitcoin, are looking at one specific time frame, or they're using excessive numbers of indicators. And it's not me to be, pompous and say that that's not a way to go about trading. But what I like to do here when I try to answer these questions and prepare myself for my positions is look at, what are the different time frames showing? There are other investors and traders who are probably looking at different various time frames. So it's critical for me to be able to do technical analysis and really more specifically price analysis as to what's going on in the different time frames. So let's look at a time frame that practically no one looks at. And that's the monthly, right? This is your kind of institutional investor kind of chart. This is where big money's watching in this case, and they're looking to see about consistencies with previous cycles, right? Well, just taking a look here at the standard chart here, and we will take it to the logarithmic here in just a moment. This is the monthly chart, so each of these candles are representing a month here. We've got some great volume expansion here for Bitcoin here on exchanges like Bitstamp and the broader, aggregate of exchanges through BLX, but this monthly candle here, to be honest, guys, you can have some subjective nature when it comes to price analysis or candle patterns. Generally, in candle patterns, this is a really bad setup here, to be honest, on the monthly chart. You've got a really long extended wicks here that's showcasing that a lot of that upward movement in the month faded by the end of the month. It's a very bearish signal that things were probably over exuberant. The price ran up way too quick for its liking in this case, or at least the market's liking. And people took profits. That's what happened. You can say it's whales dumping. You can say that it's corporations and banks manipulating things. That's the price, right? Now, this doesn't mean that I'm bearish on Bitcoin or anything. I'm just saying in this case, on a monthly analysis, this doesn't look good. And what you would have to hope for here in this case is that on the following month here, especially if we come down here to 29 or 30,000 here over the next couple of days, you would have to hope here that we get an extremely fast set of follow through here, basically an engulfing candle in this case that would consume all this price action in the next following month, which, to be honest with you guys, as much as I'm optimistic on Bitcoin, I just don't know if I see it happening. I don't see that kind of momentum returning just yet. Let's take a look at the weekly here, right? Taking a look at the weekly, we've had two consistent red weeks here after almost near vertical price action, and again, some follow through the downside here, right? Again, in this case, overall, this is generally a bearish chart here. You've got a well-made run-up here all the way back here from March. We went from 38,000 to more than 10xing here at around 42,000. And now we're coming down here. We're starting to have a pullback here. If you look at this weekly candle here, this is a bearish candle here, right? Overall, we're waiting to see here whether or not we can find some kind of base range of support on the weekly. Maybe it might be down here towards 29,000 or down here towards 28,000. you need to get around some of those big even levels or test around again 30K again, which so far we've just been setting higher or lower lows here in this case, breaking through that range. So it might be that we have to go towards the lower range for support here before we actually build a base and start moving higher. You want to see these red candles here starting to curve, right? Starting to move downward here, right? And starting to cusp back up. And we haven't seen that yet. We're still going down. So it's best, just like on the uptrend, not to fight the trend. Same goes here on the downside. You don't want to fight the trend there. And that's why we've been, again, maintaining our positions in altcoins at the moment. Now, the one chart that I will say is speaking for the bulls as a potential opportunity for a serious reversal back up to the upside is the daily chart here. You had ascending volume, ascending price action. Good on that end. Sell side pressure starting to really fade off here as prices are moving slightly lower. And along with that as well, what I really like to see here is the higher lows, right? Multiple days where we've been holding in this range between 31,000 to 33,000. Much higher than the exaggerated lows down here. And now we have a chance here, again, much like we've had in the past, to see if we can break above this general line of resistance that's weighing down price. You can draw it any way you like here, but broadly speaking, if we can get above somewhere around $34,000 for Bitcoin, this will be a substantial enough move here in this case to signal that, we're probably breaking through this line of resistance and we're going to continue moving higher here. I don't think we're going to see anything before the end of this month, guys, to be honest. I think that this monthly candle, we have to hope, if anything, is going to hold around this range and not turn back over. That's the prayer and hope that I think a lot of people have on the bullish side, because if it does roll over here and we don't find support at 28,000, the next target range, I mean, you've got a few support ranges like 25,000 and 22,000 down here. It's most likely going to be 20K, and we're going to get that 50% correction. And I have a feeling it's going to be a slow grind if we don't have those institutional buyers coming in, right? And this is something that I think is critical to keep in mind, guys, that we had overall the kind of major corporate treasurers in this case. We had the MicroStrategies, the rougher, the rougher kind of companies, all these different companies out there that are coming in and buying large stakes in Bitcoin. And now we haven't been seeing that momentum going into 2021. It seems like a lot of it faded off in the holidays, something that we had talked about previously, again, back when I made my video where I was a bit concerned about the markets. So now what we're seeing is that the existing liquidity and new value in the market that persisted is now starting to circulate into some other cryptos, and dominance is starting to normalize, where it was extremely exaggerated onto the downside for altcoins in this case, back when Bitcoin was at its all-time highs. And again, just take a look at the BLX chart here, guys. Again, above all, to this question here of whether or not we're at a mid-cycle high. All right, I would say the reason why it's very fair to assume here that we're at least due for some type of correction, or that we're going to cool down for a little while and maybe hold sideways, is because of the sheer fact here that if we were to continue charting forward here, if we hit this line of resistance, right, unless we break through it and break the historical norm here that Bitcoin has always held to since its origination, we're only setting in cycle highs of around $67,000, $70,000. That's not my target for this cycle. I think we could easily go to 100K to 200K. Heck, it might even blow beyond that. But it's going to take some time to get there. All right. So again, above all, I would just say to be cautious here on Bitcoin overall. If you're holding long term, there's nothing to worry about. And then have a plan here, again, more than anything, to have fiat on hand to average in if that's of interest to you guys. When we do get those dip opportunities, when we get the 40-50% dips, that's the time here to be more optimistic than anything. Now, I will say one thing that's been really positive is that Marathon Patent Group, in this case, one of the large Bitcoin mining companies, has come out with the purchase of 150 million Bitcoin via New York Digital. This is really exciting news to see these kind of big order buys. I will say, though, that this is not the equivalent of a corporate company like MicroStrategy, like Michael Saylor here in this case, or another type of publicly traded company coming in and buying. And there's a reason for that. The reason is because, in this case, Marathon Patent Group has ties to mining operations. And it's not always actually a very good thing when a miner is spending their money rather on buying Bitcoin directly off the market than putting it towards mining operations, because it means in this case that it's not as profitable to mine Bitcoin, right? So overall, they're finding it more better in this case just to simply go on the spot market and purchase it. Not a bad thing. Still sets price demand here overall. That's good to see. But at the same time, this means in this case that a lot of miners might be on the edge of possibly selling or taking profits. So again, if you want to read into the report here, guys, really interesting story overall. But again, next thing I wanted to talk about here is that overall in the fundamental narrative of things, crypto has never been more popular. As we can see here, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Nigeria, a lot of emerging economies across the world, all going at record search paces for Bitcoin. So I think what we're seeing here again is that above all, whether they're buying at 30K, whether they're going to buy if there is a dip down to 25,000 or 20K, I don't know if we're going to see that, those kind of exaggerated lows. But above all, we're seeing here that retail, everyday people are buying the dip. They're getting excited here. They're picking up prices at a discount. And that to me is really exciting. I love seeing retail get on the better end of things and being able to hopefully still get a piece of this market while it's still relatively small in the grand scheme of other financial assets. Next, I wanted to talk about Uni here. Uni's continuing to charter since we talked about it the other day. I think we did a video where it was around $11.60. We've been talking about Uni since it was $3. We set our $50 price target for Uni going forward into the month of February. And it looks like we're on course for it right now, guys, as we've been building up this parabolic line of general kind of price action here. This price is kind of waiting around. I think there's a very decent chance we could get up to 50 and a more conservative target of somewhere around $25. Again, the key thing to keep in mind, guys, is that a lot of these altcoins are still very, very cheap to Bitcoin comparative to their previous all-time highs during the summer, some of these DeFi plays. And as they continue to get more volume, as people continue to get more excited about these protocols, the token will appreciate. One thing I will say is that it was a very good question a lot of people asked me about, and that is, Nick in this case, and one thing that I did miss or not talk about too much when I talked about the Uni token, for example, is why I'm fundamentally bullish on it. Like, what can you use the token for? And this is a very fair question. I think most of the protocols out there, and this is not an insult to Uniswap or any protocols. Like, I love the technology overall, but this whole narrative of governance systems to me seems a little bit far out. So the Uni token, for example, is a governance token. And I personally don't believe in the long run the governance tokens are going to win out. There's people who make the regulatory argument in this case. For me, it's more on a utility basis. I might use the Uniswap protocol and really like Uniswap, but I don't always know if I want to participate in the voting process of it. And I think that, even that doesn't, I don't know if that further proves enough utility to be really bullish on a long term. So what I think is going to happen long term is I think that the governance system itself is going to evolve the utilities of the Uni token. And that's why I think a lot of people are buying it. So where you can maybe, for example, pay lower liquidity provider fees in this case, or you could use Uni tokens similar to how you use other utility tokens to depreciate your fee obligation, or access certain services on the Uniswap protocol, or do other types of features within the protocol. I think that we don't even know kind of the surface level of what's going to happen here. And it's why I don't mind in this case building a steady position in a crypto that right now is still, I think, figuring out its utility, right? I think that this space broadly has some great minds and people who are going to make it work in the end. But that being said here, again, even if there is no utility at the end of the day for cryptos, guys, again, markets will speculate, right? And that's the key thing to talk about here. Whether you're making the store value argument or utility argument, markets will be markets. And that leads us towards our next topic here that I want to discuss here. That is GameStop. So GME is the ticker symbol here for GameStop. GameStop, for those of you who are from the good old USA, and I think that there are some also as well in Canada and a few other regions, might know about GameStop. It's a legacy retail company, a retail store franchise where you go in to buy video games, console hardware, whatever it may be, collectibles, things of that sort related to games. If you're a nerd like me, you've probably been there. But basically speaking overall, GameStop was kind of the leading brick and mortar store back in the day. And nowadays it's kind of become a relic of the past, as a lot of franchises and brick and mortar stores have tended to go through. But the stock is telling a very different story here. As we can see here, take a look at the auto chart here. Back in the middle of the summer here, GameStop was trading at about $4, $5 per share here. And now it's not only closing price from yesterday was at $145, but if we scroll up here, we can see pre-market is going up to $228. So we got to ask ourselves the question, did GameStop or GME in this case find some revolutionary new industry? Did it find a new way to dominate the gaming market online? Well, we don't know for certain in that case if there is any kind of innovation. I don't want to speak badly about GME. what I do want to spend some time to talk about is why price is doing what it is. And it's a mixture of two things: a bunch of FOMO buying and the biggest short squeeze I think we've ever seen in the last decade, if not more, throughout history. This is something that I think is uncharted territory here. And to be honest with you guys, it is a mixture here of what would be borderline market manipulation, and outside of that as well, the sheer principle that you don't want to position yourself too much betting against one specific asset. That's the two things that have basically caused this. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what's happened here. Well, first off, you've had a ton of people on Reddit through a subreddit, in this case, Wall Street Bets, which I've kept up with from time to time. It's a fun thing to look at, but I really tend not to go on there that often. So you've got this massive amount of buy-side pressure from these people on subreddits who are propping up the stock in this case, who are saying, let's buy GameStop, this and that. And then outside of that as well, what you've got on the other end is some of the largest hedge funds, or not per se the largest hedge funds, but some of the largest hedge fund-owned short positions on specific stocks like GameStop. They've kind of piled on to these Goldilocks shorting opportunities that just seemed like guaranteed wins. Everyone knows brick and mortar stocks are going out of business, right? Well, that's the general philosophy that a lot of these funds had, and they had lots of capital allocated shorting the stock. So what does shorting the stock mean, and why is it that this is happening if so many people were betting against it? So if you first off need to understand here, and I think a lot of people might know the term shorting is like, oh, you're betting against a stock, you're betting on it going down. And that is true. That's why you would short a stock in this case. But a lot of people don't realize what they're doing when they short a stock in this case. So what you're basically doing overall, and this is actually where a lot of the borrowers come in the crypto lending space, why a lot of people want to borrow not so much stable coins, they want to borrow altcoins in this case. Let's say, for example, I wanted to short GameStop stock in this case, just hypothetically as these funds were doing. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a broker in this case who's managing shares in this case for a variety of different clients, maybe a bank of some sort, and I'm going to basically borrow their shares for a fixed amount of dollars in this case. Let's say I have $10,000. The shares are at $1 each, so now I have 10,000 shares I borrowed in this case. I owe the bank back in this case 10,000 shares. But what I'm going to do as an investor, and what's kind of obfuscated when you short on a platform, is basically I'm going to take these 10,000 shares, and I'm basically going to go ahead and sell them in this case, right? I'm going to take it back to a dollar-based position here, right? And as the market price goes down, all I have to do is buy back my share obligation, so the 10,000 shares. Maybe let's say the shares go down to 50 cents per share. They were at $1 originally, now they're down to 50 cents. I made a great trade. I'm up 50%, right? I go ahead, I lock it in, I repurchase the shares I need to purchase, and then I give them back to the original party that I borrowed them from. And I get to keep the extra $5,000 in this case that I got from my original sale. That's how shorting generally works. It's obfuscated through all of the platforms that you use, but that's the general principle here. And the maximum profit you can have is 99.99% basically going down to zero, right? You can't have more than that in that case because stock can only go down to zero, or possibly, well, in the world of negative prices that we saw with oil last year, maybe that might change. But I digress. Above all here, what we had was a ton of hedge funds placing shorting bets on GameStop stock here on GME. And a compilation of a ton of buyers, getting more and more people buying in, basically trying to force those shorts out of their positions. Now, it would be one thing if when shorts closed, they just got out of their positions, or they're just like, okay, I'm done, I lost money. But the thing about a short position in this case is you can have what's known as a short squeeze. A short squeeze here is when, in this case, the shorter in this case is realizing, oh my God, I have to cover myself. Like the price is rallying back up. So when you're closing your position, if we go back to our example we talked about, they have to take the capital they have from the short position as they're waiting for the price to go down. They need to take that cash and actually go buy up the shares, right? So this causes more buy-side pressure here in this case for the actual equity as more and more people cover. As the price gets higher and higher and higher, all the shorts have to start covering for themselves. And they're buying up more and more stocks, and it's just a domino effect at the end of the day. And it makes these kind of weird case scenarios here, right? These weird scenarios where GameStop stock shouldn't be at a $10 billion valuation. That's the way the company's sitting at right now, and pre-market signaling that it's going to be a $15 billion company here in a couple of hours. It doesn't make sense. And again, as you can see, this is all going to happen very quick. It's going to be relatively short-lived. This tends to happen sometimes in markets. And it's really, really weird to see, but it's a symptom of people being way too positioned. And while some people are making a lot of money speculating onto the upside, there are a lot of funds in this case who are overexposed to a short position on it, losing a lot of money. So I want to make it very clear, guys. I'm not telling you guys to go buy the stock in this case. I do not own any GME stock, and I'm never going to recommend you guys to go trade or buy securities in this case. All right? I love trading the stock market in this case, and I do love understanding and watching these things happen, but I just wanted to help kind of break it down in this case so you guys can understand it for yourself. And I would say for anyone who's telling you how to go out and buy options or this or that and stuff or go trade, guys, first off, do your own due diligence. As you all know, I'm always going to be here to look out for you guys. Don't get caught into a trap here, buying into something that's been going vertical or vice versa. You know, again, in this case, trying to short something, right? Shorting is not as easy and as self-explanatory as it looks, and it can get more expensive to short when you get towards higher prices. Sometimes it's good to just sit back, have a laugh, and look for the next opportunity in the market. But above all, make sure again, guys, that you have some sense about how you approach markets rather than just getting into the next YOLO in this case, or the next YOLO, which is you only live once kind of position that Wall Street Bets is talking about, right? Be careful, okay? So, anyways, I thought I'd teach you guys a little bit about that if you didn't happen to know about it already. And if you guys like this video, drop a like. It always means a lot to me. It's the best thing you can do for the channel. Just dropping a like. It's a simple thing. And then also hitting the subscribe and bell icon for more content to come here in the next coming days. So anyways, guys, I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. Thank you for letting me ramble as always. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.